Good morning. I thought about doing an imitation of Duke and saying, hey, good to see you here. Duke, glad to see you're in the congregation. Good morning, everyone. So this young man decided that he was going to give his wife a gift on Christmas Eve, just something small. So he goes into a department store and he goes to the cosmetic counter and he asks for some perfume. So the lady behind the counter brings out a bottle of perfume, and it was $150. And he said, oh, that's a bit much for me. Show me something else. So she goes behind the counter, and she pulls out another bottle of perfume. That was $75. He takes a whiff of it, and he says, no, this is still a bit extravagant. Show me something else. So exasperated, she pulls out a bottle of $10 perfume and sets it on the counter, and he looks at it and he said, I want to see something really cheap. She pulls out a mirror. So Christmas is the time of giving. And what gifts are we really giving, regardless of their costs? What gifts are we really giving? This morning, I would like to talk about the gifts of the wise men. There's so much imagery in the Christmas story and so much beauty woven into it. But one of my favorite parts is definitely about the wise men and their journey, because I believe it contains the essence of the Christmas message for me. So the wise men came from a faraway region, as far away as China or India, present-day Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan. They came from that area. And it is said that they saw a light in the sky, and scholars believe that they saw this light at the break of day. At the break of day. And so it was the dawning of a new day, and they knew that it symbolized something very important. And they made a decision to journey to find what they believed that the star meant, that there was a king born upon the earth. Now, the wise men were not just astrologers. A lot of people theorized that they were astrologers, but they were much more than that. They were very, very powerful men. They were second in authority only to the king. And not only that, they had the power to appoint the king. So consider that. They had the power to appoint the king. So for these men to travel across and make the journey to pay homage to the birth of a child was very significant. And they carried with them the gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Traditional Christianity has theorized about the symbolism of gold and frankincense and myrrh. Gold is one of the purest metals on earth. When it passes through the fire of purification, it in itself is not altered. Gold is the standard for our currency exchange. It is a symbol of wealth. So in looking at the symbolism of bringing gold to lay at the feet of the Christ child, in essence, these learned men were saying, we recognize your power, your influence, your authority. Frankincense was used in the temple as an incense. It was a pure white smoke that has a very, very sweet smell. It can also be used as an ointment. Frankincense is gathered by slashing the tree, and when the resin collects outside the tree, it is harvested and ground into a fine powder or returned to an oil state. The priests would burn frankincense at the altar, hoping that its sweet aroma would be pleasing to God. So it was an act of devotion. Incense represented that which is sacred and holy. So in presenting incense to the child, the symbolism of that is we recognize your divinity in addition to your power and your authority. And then there's myrrh. Oh, blessed myrrh. Myrrh is a bit different in that it was an oil that was used for embalming the dead. And it was harvested the same way that frankincense is harvested. You slash the tree, the resin comes, and you gather the myrrh. But in addition to embalming the dead, myrrh was also used as a healing ointment, as frankincense could also be used for healing. Myrrh was probably the most commonly applied astringent that they had. Myrrh could take away scars. It could be used toothaches, all kinds of maladies that might be experienced in the present day. And today, myrrh is found in toothpaste, cosmetics, all kinds of products contain myrrh to some extent. So the symbolism in giving myrrh to the Christ child was a recognition of the suffering that he would take on when he was crucified. Myrrh traditionally represents bitterness and suffering. People acknowledge that these three gifts that were given to the Christ child also had a practical application. It is believed that the gold that they received from these wise men helped to finance Joseph and Mary's trip to Egypt, because right after the wise men left from meeting with the child, then Mary and Joseph fled in the middle of the night to safety in Egypt. Incidentally, the wise men did not show up at the manger. It took a while to journey across the terrain, and scholars believe it could be as little as 2 months and up to as long as 2 years that the wise men made this journey. They said when they found the child, he was in a house, not a stable. So it's just interesting how we want to lump everything together in our imagination. So we kind of do that in our life too. You know, we just lump everything together and just, we have one bad experience with somebody of a certain hair color. Next thing you know, all redheads are trouble. So it's kind of our nature to do that. I'm so grateful for Unity because Unity gives me an extra deep look at the symbolism of these stories and every story in the Bible. Every story in the Bible is a story about my consciousness. This is what I believe. So what this story is illustrating for me personally is something more than just the symbolism of gold and the use of frankincense and myrrh. It is an aspect of my consciousness that if I can have that insight, I can transform the way I live, and it will be good. It will be good. So let's just take a look at this story from a deeper perspective. Number one, what makes the wise men wise? Was it because they were so powerful? Was it because they were so knowledgeable? I believe what made the wise men wise is that they had the insight. They had that moment of revelation when they realized that there is a new day dawning for them. There is on the horizon something greater than the life that they had created for themselves. That there was a presence that called them into a greater relationship with themselves and with the divine. So number one, they had an awakening. And number two, they made the decision to journey to find this Christ child. So these are marks of wisdom in my point of view. those who believe that there is something greater about life than we currently experience in this moment, and who are willing to make that journey of mind and heart and physical presence every day in life in order to find this divine one that is present. So the wise men make a journey, and it takes a while. But they carry with them these gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. They carry within them gold, the symbol of resourcefulness and power, pure power. They carry within them the authority that allows them to choose what will govern them. We carry within us the authority to choose what will govern our lives. So I ask you, what governs your life? What are you giving your power to today? Where does your authority rest? Does money govern your life? Do addictions govern your life? Does the pursuit of validation from other people govern your life? Does justice govern your life? The search for truth? Love, the expression of love and kindness. What governs your life? Being wise is knowing that you have the power to choose that governance. And that part of you is golden. You also carry within you in your journey, as did the wise men, frankincense, the pure spiritual essence that you are, beyond the personality, beyond the human experience, is the presence of the divine in you, living and moving and having its expression in and through you. You are innocent, you are pure, and you are sweet. That is your essence. The third thing that you carry with you every day as you journey through life in search of your spiritual essence, the third thing that you carry is myrrh. Myrrh is interesting because it can be used for purposes of death or purposes of life. Myrrh can be used to preserve the past which no longer serves. That energy can be used to keep alive the hurt, the unforgiveness, the anger. That myrrh can also be used for healing, for washing away, diminishing the scars of life. Myrrh can be life-affirming. So these three things that we carry with us, for me, represent one, the gold represents our freedom, our power, our freedom to choose this day what we will serve and what will govern us. The frankincense is our divine worth. So when I have those moments when I feel unworthy, it's not true. The frankincense within me cleanses that and heals those thoughts. And then the myrrh for me represents responsibility. We have a responsibility to choose life or death. How are we going to use our experiences of this day? These are three very powerful gifts. The wise men journeyed, and they found the Christ child. They found what they were looking for. But that is not enough. It doesn't end there. It says when they found the Christ child, they fell on their knees and then they offered their gifts. Where is the Christ child for us? We know that this divine presence that we seek to be in relationship with is not in some stable somewhere. It's not in some destination anywhere on earth. That divine presence is right here, right now, in the midst of us. We cannot wait until we find this experience before we give these gifts. I believe it is in giving these gifts that we find what we are looking for. It's a matter of surrendering our most intimate selves in service to the divine. So this golden free will I have, this golden authority I have, I surrender it to God. Here I am. Use me. And then I pray that I have the courage and the wisdom to follow that. And all these feelings I have of being unworthy, of feeling guilty, or feeling sad, I surrender that as well. I am willing to stand in the space that says, I am worthy to be the divine expression of God. And I surrender all that is sacred and holy within me to your service. And then I give up my cherished myrrh. Oh, all those stories about all those things that I think make me who I am. Those stories of lack and limitation, I surrender them. I give them up because I have a responsibility to speak words of truth. I have a responsibility to stand in the place of life and hold that space for you and for every other person, just as you hold that space for me. I have a responsibility because of the love in my heart to choose life and to choose it abundantly. These are the gifts of wisdom, and it's interesting to note that the Empire of Arabia became wealthy because of frankincense and myrrh. We could say frankincense, that devotional part of us, represents our hearts, and myrrh, that part of us that is responsible, represents our minds. When we give our minds and our hearts over to the divine presence, that's when we come into our spiritual wealth of power. That's when we have the wisdom to know how to live each day and the courage to follow through. We all have these gifts. The question is, are we going to give them to ourselves, the Holy One within ourselves? Or are we going to cheap out and buy a $5 bottle of perfume and call it Christmas? And now let's move into meditation. We relax into this moment. We know that that which is holy is the truth of our being. And all that we seek is given right here in this present moment. Your freedom, your power, your resourcefulness, your innocence, the guidance you seek and the choices you make. It is given here and now. So breathing in, we breathe in the love of God, the peace of God, the light of the mind that illumines all. And as we exhale, we let go of all things that concern us. For we know that the Christ presence goes before us to prepare our path, perfecting all things that concern us. It is a sacred journey. And each step of the way is its own fulfillment. O blessed child within you and within me, that is the source of our joy, the source of our new day, the source of the brilliance of life itself. This morning, we decree that we have found your holy presence. You live and move and have our being in our hearts, in the light of our eyes, in our kind words, our humble smiles. The life we seek is established in us right now in this holy moment. And we accept these gifts. Thank you, precious Spirit. And now we rest in the silence, just communing with this presence. Thank you, precious Spirit. We lift our eyes now and we move into the remainder of this day to fulfill that which you have called us to be, which is no less than the light of the world. We stand in your holy presence. We accept your gifts, and we joyously give them back in this circle of love, and so it is. Thank you, God. Amen.
Love, 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 love. The gospel in one word is love. Love your neighbor as yourself.